It's episode 16 as well. Oh, I don't know, that's good. That's fine. Just make sure you talk up. I don't even know if I'm talking loud anymore.
Because you're hearing
Because I can hear properly. The biggest quote I've gotten so far since I've started classes with them is that I'm softer when I do my briefing.
You're softer.
Softer. I'm not as loud as I used to be. It sounds like I'm yelling right now.
Nah, you're a lot more monotone. Yeah, I
Good.
feel like I'm gonna go to sleep now.
Listen to the sound of my voice. Let it take you away.
Where's that energetic, Tyler?
Yeah, listen to it on a blissful evening of podcast listening. Speaking of podcasts, episode 16, we're going to talk about training volume. One of the questions we get commonly from both clients as well as gym members is, how much should I train? How often should I train? Am I training too much? Do I need to do more? What should I spend my time on? So many questions.
This is a fun one, and I think framework is a good place to start. So nice way to kind of think about it. Tolerance will change over time, so we need to define what too much is. There's two things we need to pay attention to, two metrics other than training itself. One is time. How much time can you physically allocate? And then two, do you have the capacity to recover from it? So something to think about is, as you adapt, all right, you will eventually be able to keep adding more volume, but you will run out of the other two. So you can add in more sets, you can squat more days, but now you're going to start taking away from the other two. So it's like, I don't actually have enough time because I'm 7 days in a week, so I get overlap. I don't hit my recovery protocols of 48 hours before I get to hit my legs again. And then it's also going to be the trade-off of what you're getting from the rest of your life. So what we tend to find is there's a way around this. So the easiest way for you guys to understand this, all right, if I'm squatting 2 days a week, all right, now I've adapted to that, I can theoretically go 3 days a week. Once I've done 3 days a week and I've adapted to that, I can go 4 days a week. But there's a point where I'm now trading off everything else. All right, so yeah, I'm doing 4 days a week of squatting, but now my knees are fucked because I don't have enough time to recover, pardon my French. And it's like, and now I can't train any other body parts.
Yeah.
All right, so there is a point where there's diminishing returns, and then that's where we need to make some adjustments. I suppose for me personally, this is where deloads and breaks and seasons are important. So we will have a point in time where you might literally take the squat away, so someone hits 3 days a week, and you take it away for the next 8-week cycle. And they're like, I'm not squatting. And you're like, yeah, of course you're not. We're going to reset your tolerance so that when you come back, you can squat 2 days a week and get better. You don't have to squat 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So you trade off kind of 10 to 15% to now get another 30%. So you got to give a little to get a little.
There you go. That's in a wrap. That'll be everything for today. I'm kidding.
And we're done.
That was a good explanation. Yeah, I think I 100% agree. I think obviously it depends. There's a lot of factors. It depends on what you're doing. Like if you're doing running, you might be able to do that 4 days a week, and recover well and not have to taper off and reset and go again. But if you're doing squats, for example, 4 days a week, how many of those days are inherently beneficial? What are you doing in those 4 days? You can't be going hard all 4 days because that won't work. If you're an absolute beginner, maybe, but if you're an intermediate or advanced lifter, there's a lot of factors that we need to play in part. I think number one is definitely longevity. I think a lot of people need to consider at the end of the day, are they willing to be able to do this for a long time, or they want to have a good time? Because you do 4 days of squatting a week, knees are the first thing to go, hips are the second thing, you might get some ankle issues. It's just like Michael said, you're not giving your body adequate time to recover so that you can then perform the same again and again and again. On the other side of it too, diminishing returns, where is too much? You throw around these cool scientific terms: minimum effective volume, maximum recoverable volume. Those are the two things, and then there's a sweet spot in the middle. So what it means is the minimum effective volume is the minimum amount of work you need to do in a session to gain adaptation.
And it's bang for buck. We all want convenience. To me, that's convenient. So I'm going to throw one of my clients on the bus here. He had a conversation with me in one of our training sessions, and he said, we went for a hike with friends, and he was the one who was the most pumped, and one of his mates said something, and it stung him. So it's been on his mind for last week, are you going to be able to get through this hike? And it was like the perfect opportunity now where he didn't like that. So I was like, okay, we can now start playing with things that he wouldn't normally do because now he's motivated to do them. But he asked me, he's like, I don't want this and I need to get fitter. How do I fix this? And I was like, do you want the good news or the bad news? I was like, you know the one thing you hate? I was like, we're gonna do that. He's like, fuck.
No.
But the point is, like, him, and this is running, okay? Now, for him to run 30 minutes, there's a reason he hates it. He's not good at it. Like, and when we track his heart rate, like, we literally tested it. So we ran a minute on, minute off. We did a minute of a brisk walk, which we set as 6K an hour. And then we did a minute of a light jog, which we did at 7.2. So we did very specific metrics. And we did that for 6 sets and we tracked his heart rate. All right. And him just running at 7 to 7.2, which is slightly above a brisk walk, his heart rate was at like 180.
Jeez.
So it's like, of course he hates it.
Yeah.
But the point is, if we sat on a bike and we did 30 minutes of that, he's not going to hit those heart rates. He's not going to get that adaptation. So 30 minutes on a run versus 30 minutes on a bike, a row, a swim, these other things, he's going to get, like, yeah, he's going to hate it. Mentally, he's going to have to tune in. But he's going to get way more for the 30 minutes on the run than he is for anything else.
Exactly. So for him, increasing the amount of times per week he runs is the way to success. That's the improvement. He doesn't run at all at the moment. You're adding running to his training. That's a clear adaptation. And the minimum effective volume for him is very low because any running is going to give him that progression.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, we just said 4-week goal. We're just going to run 1 day a week for 4 weeks. We're going to build to a 5K over 12 weeks. Now, he literally sent me his Garmin breakdown for session 1 that was only meant to be a 30-minute session. And he ended up doing a 50-minute session. And he ended up covering 6.9K, I think.
There you go.
So it's like, he literally had something he hated, didn't want to do, couldn't get up, and like there's no way he could motivate himself, and then he went and did more.
And I think the key point is just what I want to reiterate what Michael said is 1 session per week is all this guy has been programmed. So 1 session, and that's the key. He's not starting with 4 sessions a week.
Yeah.
Back-to-back running intervals.
It's not this high rock shit where it's like, hey, we need to run 150K a week, and it's like, fuck me, you're doing literally
like 8Ks in this.
You're doing like 18 hours of running a week. You're not gonna get to the end of your life and be like, I wish I ran more.
Yeah.
But I wish I hung out with my family more. Like,
I've run enough. It's too much.
Yeah, I was like, you're running 1,200 meters. You don't need to cover that much.
No, and that's like, I think there's another conversation in that where there's got some guys in the gym who are doing a trail run this weekend. And there's some of them are doing 50Ks, others are doing 100. And that is where you probably look at running, 100, 150Ks a week towards
they
the
need
back
to
up.
do that.
Yeah, because that's a lot of running. They need to condition themselves to running off-road, on-road, in different scenarios, uphill, downhill, etc. And they're the ones who need to invest that volume. So with like Ironman and like triathletes and like things like that, where like the distance and the length of time that their entire their competition set is needs to match their training volume. Like, because if your competition demands long time periods, like if you're running for 50, 60, 70 minutes.
It's the specificity of the sport.
Yeah.
And like, I think people forget, like a lot of these guys at the top end, they have issues. like there's a reason they're running, and they're running so long, like for their mental health or whatever, like it's the way they deal. It's not necessarily sport specific, but because they're good at something, like we just go like correlation equals causation. We're like, oh, because they run 150K, but really it's just because he has mental health issues and that's like his safe space. Now everyone copies that because he did well at High Rocks.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, if you look at strength and conditioning and sports specific, like go to the guys who actually help people improve.
Yeah.
Like, don't listen to these influencers. Like, we literally just had the creatine breakdown where the influencers have been giving you guys fucking $60 sweets. Like, there is no integrity. They don't check anything. They just do what they do, and they expect you to want to be like them and copy them. Like, if you go to a wholesaler this is how I think about it, and a wholesaler stocks a whole lot of products, they're accountable for that product because they're choosing to sell it to you. Which means, like, if you ask me my opinion, my personal bias to them selling everything, they should be held accountable and give the money back as well. Because they didn't do the due diligence and hold the integrity to test the product. They were just like, oh sweet, I can make money off this, I'm going to sell it to my audience.
Yeah, exactly.
But it still means there's an element of responsibility.
Yeah.
So the same thing goes, the reason I ran a bit like that, because we don't look at it properly. Like, I mean, bodybuilding the same way. They will go and sell their programs, but they won't, and we're like, hey, look like me, do what I did, here's my program. But they don't show you their budget for the week, where it's fucking lip filler, like they're getting their eyebrows done, they're getting their fake tans, they're getting their Botox, they're taking their fucking BPC, they're taking all their TRT. Like, they don't tell you that.
No.
They tell you it's their $45 program that makes them look like
And
that.
their protein powder.
But it's like, hey, you should have to share your schedule and your bank account. Like, I would love to see the data on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm a natural athlete. How is that natural these days? Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing natural about that. Even the photos are edited.
Nothing's genuine. Yeah, I think that's probably even a good point to look at too, because I remember watching something, and it was a guy talking to Arnold about building quad strength or building quad size, and he was saying, like, this is what I do, this is what such and such did, like Tom Platt's biggest quads in the world, he was doing sets of 20 back squats.
But it used to be transparent. Like, you won't have this because you won't do what I do. Like, you won't go and sacrifice the way I sacrifice. Like, they were very honest about it.
Yeah.
But these days, people just lie.
Yeah, because it sounds cooler if you're like, I'm natural. Oh my god, but the point,
I only do 2 sets a week and I get 35% muscle gain. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck me, like, talk shit.
But that also could be true, and that's what I mean as well. Like, if you're looking towards the influencers, the athletes, the guys, your idols, and you're looking at how they train, sometimes training is specific for the person, not necessarily just the sport, but the athlete.
So, I mean, not saying don't do that. We're
No.
saying manage your perspective. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna look at that, look at the full picture.
But even if Michael and I are training, we're on the same cycle, we're doing squats, and let's say we're doing 2 sessions a week. Let's say I'm someone who just responds really well to squatting twice a week, and Michael is not. Michael hasn't even recovered from the first session, and we're going in for session 2, and he's like, bro, my legs are so sore. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And
I'm
like,
fine.
anecdotally, like, this is a perfect example. Like, for me to get good at squatting, I have to squat 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Like, it's a frequency thing. Like, my nervous system just needs regular exposure.
Yeah.
Because it's how I tend to adapt. Like, my nervous system down regulates my force output, so it's different. But there are people who would be perfectly fine doing 2 days a week.
Or even
That's
one.
just not me.
Yeah, they just do less. Like, that's the thing. Like, when you come to volume, looking at other people for inspiration is okay, but a lot of the times we need to first consider our own constraints. If you're, let's say, we're talking about the squat example because it's one that's been going around already. Let's say you've already got a predisposed knee issue, right? You're not going to want to squat 4 days a week. You want to be conservative. What can I get done in once a week? Can I add something to my training that's not going to hurt my knees that will help improve my squat? Should I deadlift? Should I deadlift more than squatting to help improve my squat? Maybe, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of other considerations
Yeah,
outside.
should I box squat? Should I be doing tempo? Should I be adding variations? Like,
Yes, there's lots you can do without just doing more. If we look at CrossFit, for example, and now this is a personal experience for me. I used to be the type of guy that would train 2 to 3 times a day, 6 to 7 days a week. There was points where I was having 1 rest day a fortnight, thinking that I needed to do more to be better. And in some cases, for skill work, yeah, the more training I did, the better I got. My swimming was terrible. Doing more swimming made me better at swimming. My skills were terrible. Gymnastics, couldn't do all the gymnastic movements that I needed to. More of that is actually better because it's pattern recognition, it's coordination, it's balance. They're the things that you can get away with doing more. More workouts, more strength training. They're the things that you cannot get away with doing more of. There's a certain point where doing too much strength training is pointless. You start to, like I said, diminishing returns. Too much cardio is pointless. Too much joint impact, too much ligament.
And I think just to add on this, because I'm just straight away, something pops to my head there. When we say pointless, if we simply blanket it as in, I want to get stronger and I'm doing more to get stronger, yes, there's a point where it's pointless. But you need to also understand that we understand this as coaches because we have these conversations with clients. If you flip the coin and someone is doing more for other things, mental health, consistency, stay away, literally, it's one of the biggest things that you hear, stay in sports, stay out of court. Like, If it's to do with that, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's it. And then some people do value that and benefit from that as well.
And Tristan, this is just why I bring it up, because Tristan pops to mind.
Yes, yeah. So, 'cause some people like the gym outside of the fact that they actually do. If you look at Tristan's training, he's doing the same amount as what most people would get done in an hour, in 3 hours. But it's also because A, he tries very hard at some of the things he does do, and then B, he just enjoys being here. So he takes a lot more time because he has a lot more time for that. That's probably a major one too. Obviously the time investment, like you were talking about earlier, like people have lives. Investing 16 to 25 hours a week in the gym is maybe not the best course of action unless you are an elite athlete or you want to become an elite athlete and you need to do that type of a level of training to get to that next stage. That might be a consideration you have to make. And then it's sacrifices. Like if you are willing to do that extra training or your sport requires that extra dedication, like triathlons and Ironman, where you need to train 4 to 6 hours per day for those longer distance races, what are you willing to give up for that? It may be friends and family. It may be, that promotion at work. It may be family time or social events. You might miss all that stuff because you're inherently aiming for this goal that requires a huge time investment. So the flip side of that is less can be better for the guys who don't want to invest all the time. They want to go to family events. They want to get better at their job. They want to improve their relationships and social life. You can still do very well with very little. Michael, what would you suggest for someone who, in both ends of the courts, one, someone who wants to be an elite athlete, how much should they train a week depending on what they're doing? And on the other court, someone who wants to do the bare minimum and can still gain value from those sessions.
Yeah, for the athletes, if we are just going to use sport and data as an example, it tends to be 24 hours per week. That can be broken up as skill work, periodization work, and then even just recovery work. So generally 24 hours is the rule. I know if we looked at most CrossFitters, they'll be, some of them will play with between 21 to 32. And it is is it just the best use of the time? To be honest, a lot of them, the reason they're pushing these higher limits now is because of content creation. So they're spending so much time trying to make content and make it a business where they're getting stuff out to their audience and they're doing things. We watch it and we just get to see the workout reel. But if you really think about it, I watch these reels and I'm like, how do you have 7 different camera angles in a Metcon?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hang on, they didn't. They literally just did section stop, and they edited as one workout.
Yeah. I can even tell you some more insight on that too. Someone who personally did that many years ago as a way of, building up my YouTube channel. I would already have done the workout.
Yeah.
And then I come back to do the videos for the reel. So I've got my sweat on, so I look like I'm already fatigued and I've worked out. But at that point, I'm only doing sections of the workout to make it look more seamless. I've done it. So the genuineness of, okay, this is my time, this is my score, this is how much weight I lifted is there. But if it's 3 rounds of wall walks, dumbbell snatches and box jump overs, I'm doing 1 round, I'm making the movements look crisp, and then
everyone's like, oh, look how fucking good gear is. And then we watch him at Torian and his fucking legs in the other lane while he's handstand walking. But you wouldn't see that in his highlight reels because it's not how we record them.
No, and I think that's part of it. Now, what about the other side? Let's say I don't have 24 hours in a week to invest in training. How can I approach my training, let's say 3 to 4 days a week, that I can adequately use my time to get some benefits, and what would I look at doing if I was to choose something to do?
Yeah, so for me, we tend to recommend 2 to 3 days a week at 45 minutes. At least 2 of those days will be moderate to high intensity. If we really want to split it, 1 day of steady state zone 2 kind of work, so that'll be anywhere from a 110 to a 135 heart rate zone. You're not necessarily spiking, you're just keeping a nice steady one. So that just might be some light cardio machine work. Then you probably want some high power output, some strength work somewhere in that. And then the third one would be a little bit more of that. For me, I personally have a bias towards recommending skills just because of the fact that the brain is a muscle too, and if it's not flexed, it will become catabolic. So the easiest way to think about it, you will literally get dumber and it'll get harder to have coordination. And as we age, it's important to maintain function, and part of that function is going to be coordination, stimulation of the brain. It's going to be stimulation of joints and muscles going through mechanical tension. So we want to keep bone density, we want to keep muscle density, but we also want to target the brain. There's a lot of research coming out now that's showing that if you are challenging yourself with new movements, all right, that is going to help you maintain that brain function as you age. If you look at like Alzheimer's research, learning another language is the easiest way to reduce your risk. Learning another language is just learning. So learning a new movement has the same thing. Learning to play an instrument does the same thing. So it's like, this, and the reason, like, we have a bias, but we have that in CrossFit, and it's why I personally get frustrated when people are like, I'm just going to go to yard gym, or I'm just going to go do this. It's like, are you actually improving or developing things, or are you just trying to find something that allows you to express what you deem as fitness? Are you changing the rules? And that's where most people tend to sit. It's like, hey, look, I'm fit, I do this. But it's like, you just removed 7 elements that we test for fitness. And you just pick the one that you're good at. So it makes you feel like you're fit because it's what you're exposed to, it's your reality. But we almost need an agreed upon, this is reality, and this is the reality that we operate in, and these are the 7 things that we need to assess.
That's a good point. And I feel like for most people at home, so if you're looking at your training and you're looking at your weekly schedule, I know we recommend most of our members doing CrossFit to try and get at least 3 to 4 classes a week across the week. That's for the average person. For people who are a little bit more keen, they generally show up 5 to 6 days a week, but it's only for 1 hour. Once again,
these recommendations, remember, they're our biases. All right, so if you agree with us, then obviously that's why people train here and they do it with us. Like, for us, it all comes from the concept of, we zoom back when we look at a holistic point of view, and a big thing for us is, what does a fulfilling life look like? And a fulfilling life looks like being able to participate. So it's not about forcing people in any direction, but it's allowing them choice. Like, do you want to go jet skiing for the weekend? Yeah, I can, because I have the coordination and stability to do it. Do I want to go horse riding? Yes, I can go horse riding. Do I want to go climb a mountain? Yes. Do I want to go and do a marathon? Yes. Like, do I want to go do a powerlifting comp? Like, yes. These are all things you can say yes to, not be like, I'm constrained because I physically don't even have the capacity to do the training to get there.
I can barely get up the stairs. I can barely, get into my car without having, huge perspiration or panting or getting my heart rate up. That's when you know, like, oh shit, like maybe I have a problem. I think if I was to give the same example, but let's say from my expertise, let's say you want to do strength training. You're not interested in cardio. You couldn't care less if you can't walk up the stairs, but you want to do something.
And this is your switch. Like, your switch from what you did to powerlifting was nothing really. Like, it didn't take you 12 months just to learn powerlifting.
No, and it was because we already covered a lot of those movements through CrossFit regardless. But for someone who's just doing strength, you can get away with getting very, very strong on just 2 days a week. I'd say 1 is probably just not enough. You could still do 1 early on and get benefit from it, but just not enough to get the full rounded effect, to cover enough movements, and to really invest enough time into each movement. I'd say 2 seems like the sweet spot for bare minimum, like minimum effective volume, 2 sessions a week.
Most of the benefit with as little of the cost.
Yeah, exactly. 3 to 4 is more ideal. I'd say 4 to 5 is pushing it for a lot of guys. I tend to pull my more advanced athletes back to 4, not 5, because I like 3 rest days, almost like day on, day off kind of format. And that seems to work really well for them. But like I said, like 3 days a week, 2 days a week, like these are easy things to commit to for those bare minimum people, for the people who are looking at getting in the gym but don't want to commit or like sell their soul to it. But for the other guys, when you're thinking about like, okay, if 2 to 3 days a week is all it takes for me to get very strong, and I want to get very strong while getting fit, that should give you enough idea of how that works. And that's when people come to me and they're like, I want to get stronger, but I don't want to stop doing CrossFit. What should I do? Well, it's like, well, look, look, you could do it as part of your CrossFit training prior, but then are you just adding too much to your table? Like, you're going from 60 to 90 minutes, you're going from 90 to 120 minutes, like, is your session's getting too long? So when I recommend it, I'm like, you should just cut out a few of your CrossFit days, keep the main ones, like Michael was saying, keep the ones with the skills in it, especially the gymnastics.
Yeah, we tend to recommend, like the snatch day, people will keep in there just because it's allowing them some unique positions and technique to work on, and then one day with gymnastics.
Yeah, and normally that for us at our gym is Monday, Wednesday. So if you keep those 2 days, let's say you add 3 days of strength to your training, you do Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for an example, that's a pretty well-rounded week, and you can get Saturday, Sunday off. And that's enough volume. And like I said, like 3 days a week of strength training, you can do bench 2 of those 3 days, you can squat 2 of those 3 days, you can deadlift 1 of the 3 days, overhead press, pull-ups, you've got plenty of movement choices, variety that you can add in there, and we can double up on movements, and it's not going to have a huge impact like we were talking about at the start. We're going to get those knee issues, the back problems, the shoulder issues, because it's just not enough volume over those 3 days with the 4 days of recovery, assuming you are recovering, to have a huge impact unless you have some pre-existing or underlying issues. So from volume perspective, just to summarize, Michael, let's say just a quick answer. For most average people, how long should they be in the gym? How many times per week?
45 minutes, 2 days per week would be a minimum. In terms of like a balanced lifestyle point of view, would be 4 days per week at 60 minutes.
There you go.
Now, something to consider on the higher end, like your tolerance is directly correlated to the other things that you do. So when we look at these athletes and we go, oh, look how much they're training, we tend to forget that they're also in bed a lot earlier, they sleep a lot longer, their food's all prepped, they don't drink, they don't take all the other things. So like, they remove a lot of the things that we aren't willing to remove, which is what allows them to have the capacity for some of that. So, and that's why we talk about perspective being so important. You can't want what someone else has without being willing to pay the price that they pay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an important thing to keep in mind too, because if you look at these people, once again, you don't know what their background is either. So if someone looks like they're able to sustain 6 days a week, 2 sessions a day, you don't know how long they've already been doing that for. You know, you come into it your first week, you're so sore, you're like, I'm not used to this, like it's really killing me. My training sessions are kind of pointless because I'm that sore that I'm not able to push during each session. You look over your mate and he's killing it, and you're like, how is he still able to do this? And once again, genetic predisposition. Some people just are better at recovering from higher volume. Secondly, they've been doing it for longer, so their condition and their tolerance is built up. Or third, they're taking steroids now. But they could be taking or doing something that you're not. Better nutrition, better sleep, better recovery protocols. They have more access to all this stuff, and maybe they have better remedial massage, physiotherapy, chiropractic than you do, or you don't even use any of that.
And they got different belief systems. Like that's something that's probably not spoken about. Like they probably believe that 7 days a week of training is what's required. So naturally they're going to be like, okay, sweet, I'm fine with this. As where if your belief system is 3 but you're seeing someone else do 7, you have to understand that disposition as well. Like you really like what is your actual belief? That's what you need to think about. What do you value? What is your perception of it? Because it is what frames your reality. So if you are thinking like, oh, they're doing 7 days but you don't really believe that, then it does make it hard.
It does, and then you're setting yourself up for failure because you're setting unrealistic expectations for your own ability level when maybe you're not in a position or you're not conditioned enough to do what they're doing at the level that they're doing it at. Probably a good point to leave it. The second question that I want to ask is Michael ever going to eat that apple?
Yes, that's great.
But that's going to cover episode 16.
I'm just working on my hand-eye coordination.
While talking. Episode 16, we talk about volume and how you can utilize volume to your advantage in your training routine and what best suits you. If you've got any specific questions about particular niches, let's say you do CrossFit, strength training, triathlete, you do a well range of different sports that aren't necessarily what we're talking about.
If we had a pen, I could draw it on the board.
There you go. And you want to know about how much you should train, just send us a DM at Unbound Athletic on our Instagram, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. But otherwise, we'll see you guys on episode 17 of the Unbound Unplugged podcast.
Thank you, technicians.
I feel like I was really